What is it like to go through treatment for stage 3 rectal cancer? Join me, Jelena, as I go through and read journal entries that I wrote from the beginning of my cancer diagnosis. I was diagnosed at age 34 and had no risk factors or family history of any cancer, let alone colorectal cancer. So my diagnosis came as a huge shock. To refresh your memory on where I left off in the last video, I was 2 days into radiation and taking the oral chemotherapy pill Xeloda. I'm about to go in for a PET scan because in my initial diagnostic CT scan, a lymph node in my chest lit up. So my oncologist wanted me to get it checked to make sure that it isn't cancerous. Now let's hop back into the story. June 15th. Dad drove me to the PET scan this morning at 9:30 a.m. I had to fast for 6 hours prior, so I hadn't eaten anything since last night. When they took me back, they told me that I had to let the sugar with radiation tracer work its way through my body for an hour before the scan. So I texted Dad really quick to let him know that it was going to be a while, so he didn't think anything went wrong. He said okay, and then he'd go for a walk while he waited. He ended up just going to the cafeteria and getting some tea. First, the nurse had to set up another IV in my arm, then test my blood sugar to make sure that it was at an okay level. If it was too high, then the test wouldn't work as well. And she said starting chemo can throw off blood sugar levels. Luckily, mine was only 94 and it needed to be under 200. Once that was fine, she injected some saline into me to make sure the IV was working fine. Then she went to get the radioactive injection. She came back into the room with a tiny toolbox-looking box, and when she opened it, the syringe was inside a metal tube. I made a comment about how crazy it looked, and she said that the only material that blocks the radiation waves is lead. So the box and the metal surrounding the syringe were both made of lead to protect everyone else. She mentioned that its half-life is short, and that the radiation should be out of my body within 20 hours, but in the meantime, I'd be emitting gamma rays. So she had to wait outside the room during the first hour. After hearing this, I asked her if it was okay to hug Maëlle, and she asked how old she was. I said she was 5, and she said that she'd recommend not letting her sit in my lap or right next to me until tomorrow, but a quick kiss would be okay. Then I had to lay still, recline in a chair for an hour so the solution could make its way through me. About halfway through, I had to start drinking some water so that I could empty my bladder right before the scan, because a full bladder blocks the view of everything behind it in this scan. It was really cold in the room, so I was trying to just stay as warm as I could, even though the chair was heated and I had a blanket on me. I also just closed my eyes and tried to rest some more. Once I went back for the scan, it started out with a quick CT scan as the table I was on rolled through the machine, which was open on both ends, but the tunnel I went through was pretty tight. I had to lay with my arms stretched over my head for the 15 minutes of the scan. After the CT scan part, the table started making its way back through the machine bit by bit. The nurse said afterward that the machine had divided me up into 7 segments from the middle of my head through my pelvis and imaged each section for 2 minutes. After I was all finished, Dad and I went out to the omelet parlor for breakfast/lunch. I got a delicious omelet that was filled with cheddar cheese, tomatoes, green peppers, onions, and mushrooms, plus it came with an English muffin and a side of sliced potatoes. It was so good, and I was so starving I ate the entire plate. Once we got home and got Maëlle down for her nap, me and my parents went out to Costco and Target to pick up some stuff while John continued to work from home. We got home just as Maëlle woke up from her nap and with just a few minutes to spare before I had to head back to the hospital for my radiation treatment. When I counted today during my treatment, it seemed like they did my backside for 24 seconds, the left side for 18 seconds, and the right side for 20 seconds. I'll have to ask if the amount of time I'm zapped for changes from day to day, or I'm just really bad at counting. Later in the day, I thought it would be funny if I bought some washable markers and wrote or drew different stuff on my butt every day, so when they lowered the towel, they'd see something funny each day. I'm gonna try to get some markers tomorrow and start either tomorrow or Friday. I may enlist the help of my Facebook friends to get funny ideas of things to draw or write, then have John implement them each day. After dinner, my parents mowed and trimmed the yard, and Maëlle tried riding her bike around in the garage with the pedals off to try and master the balance part of being on a 2-wheeled bike. Then she busted out her scooter to ride on for a few more minutes before it was time to go in for a bath and bedtime. June 16th. This morning, as I finished up the last of my Raisin Bran cereal for breakfast, I got horrible cramps all of a sudden. I rushed to the bathroom because I thought that I might just need to take a rushed crap or let out some gas. Once I got onto the toilet, it hurt so bad I couldn't even try to push anything out, and I started to black out. Eventually, the pain subsided some and I was able to go to the bathroom, but I had to go lay on the couch for a few minutes because it still hurt a decent amount. It finally went away enough that I could go upstairs to get dressed for Mael's tennis lesson. The rest of the morning I spent working while Mael and my parents colored and played. Today was the first day I didn't have to take a nap. I stayed awake, worked, and got dinner ready in the crock pot while Mael napped. When I went in for my radiation treatment, they did new images before doing the radiation because Dr. P adjusted the field based on the MRI results. So I had to lay on the table a little longer than usual to get both done. Today it was Dee and a guy that I can't remember the name of. He re-explained the reasoning for the butt taping to make sure that the cheeks don't get raw from the radiation, or at least less of them get irritated. I went to the appointment by myself for the first time so that I could go out shopping for Father's Day presents on my own after the appointment. I managed to get my dad all shopped for and got cupcake mix and frosting so Mael and I could make cupcakes for the dads. Her idea. After dinner, we all went out for a walk, which was slowed down by Mael on her scooter, but she hung in there longer than I thought she would. June 17th. This morning, Mael came into my bedroom to give me lots of snuggles when she woke up. She didn't realize until halfway through yesterday that she could get close to me again, so she had to make up for it first thing today. After breakfast, she had to watch Miles from Tomorrowland, then everyone got dressed. Mom needed a haircut, so she, Mael, and Dad left for the morning to get a haircut and shop with Mael. I finished up some work I needed to do for posting a class for the professor, then I went to the gym. Instead of being disappointed at how tired my legs were during a run, I warmed up on the elliptical, then lifted weights. I figure bone strength is also a concern, so if my lungs and legs can't handle running, I should at least try to fend off osteoporosis by doing some weightlifting. I'm sure I'll be super sore tomorrow, but I did just fine for not having lifted in weeks. Then I hit the grocery store to get some food for the next 2 dinners, and while I was there, grabbed some coffee to keep me going. Last night, I had John write TGIF in washable marker on my butt. So when I went in for my treatment this afternoon and the nurses pulled the sheet down to expose my butt, they cracked up laughing when they saw it. They'd only seen one other person write something on themselves, and it was on that person's last day of treatment and had something to do with being excited to be done. They didn't say anything about not doing it, so if I can find a way to get it off easily without scrubbing too hard, I'll do it daily. If I can't get it off easily, maybe it'll just be a Friday thing, so it has a few days to wash off over multiple showers. I still seem to be hanging in there pretty well with no major side effects hitting me yet. My insides feel a little off, but not enough to affect my eating habits or really cause any pain. I have lost 2 pounds this week, so I'll try to focus on eating more throughout the day since I don't feel nauseous and have no reason not to eat. It's hard to believe that 1 week is done now. It feels weird every time I go to the hospital and park in the radiation oncology spot. I still don't feel like I have cancer. I just feel like I've got some weird stuff going on inside my intestines, making them gurgle a lot, causing me to go to the toilet a lot, and causing me to bleed when I fart or try to pass a bowel movement. I'm not sure that it'll ever really feel real. I don't even know what would actually make it feel more real. June 18th. First weekend of no radiation or chemo. I didn't really feel much different today than I did the rest of the week. I still took a nap this afternoon, an almost 2-hour one at that. Still have my appetite, and I'm still crapping blood. We went and saw Finding Dory this morning for a showing that Mael won tickets for through her dentist. Mael and I baked cupcakes for Father's Day tomorrow, but didn't get a chance to frost them yet. This evening we made a fire in the fire pit and had s'mores. She didn't go to bed until after 9 p.m., so she'll probably sleep until 8:05 tomorrow instead of just 8 a.m. June 19th. No. Today was Father's Day, so I got out of bed a little before 8 a.m. to make French toast for the dads for breakfast. For most of the day I felt okay, but after stuffing myself at the Indian buffet for dinner, I felt like I constantly needed to take a poop or let out gas. I was super uncomfortable all evening and had to get up to go to the bathroom every 20 minutes or so. I was ready for an early bedtime. When I put Maëlle down for bed, she asked me to demonstrate on her how they were going to do my surgery. But I told her I didn't know and thought maybe they'd have me on my tummy and slice right here. When I did the slicing motion on her, though, I realized there was a spine and other hard things in the way, and said that they actually would probably have me lay on my back and go through that way to operate. I told her I'd have to be in the hospital for a few days after the surgery, and she was sad about that. June 20th. Back to chemo and radiation today. I asked Maëlle if she wanted to go to Born to Move this morning at the gym, and she was really excited about it. So her and I went while my parents stayed here to work in the yard and apparently clean up the garage. I hopped on the treadmill during Maëlle's class and started out slow at 5.5 miles an hour, then bumped it up to 5.7 after 5 minutes. Then at around 15, I went up to 6. And then for the last 3.5 minutes, I went up to 6.5 miles an hour to finish up at 26 minutes total and covering 2.5 miles. About 10 minutes in, I got the painful urge like I needed to pass gas or poop, but I did my best to ignore it and continue on. It faded away some, but kept coming back in waves. The rest of the day has been pretty similar. When I went in for my radiation this afternoon and they asked me what my pain level was, I said it was a 1 today, mostly just uncomfortable in the intestines. I'm afraid this may be the new normal for the next few weeks, which will suck, but there are way worse side effects that I could be feeling, so I can deal with this. I may try to go in for acupuncture this week to see if that can help out some. June 21st. My back hurt a decent amount this morning, and sitting through Maëlle's tennis class was a struggle. Once we got home, I laid on the floor with a foam roller at the small of my back, and that helped relieve most of the pain. During Maëlle's nap, Mom and Dad got their plane tickets to go to Janelle's wedding. Mom is taking the same flights as Maëlle and I on Friday. Dad is leaving Denver at the same time as John on Thursday, but has a different layover, yet gets to Charlotte within 20 minutes of John. When we pulled into the parking garage for my radiation appointment, Jay, the nurse from Dr. M's office, called to see how things were going with the chemo and to ask if I was having any certain side effects. She said it sounded like things were going really well so far, and to call the office if I have any problems. There was a new helper, R, today for my radiation, and they almost forgot to tape my butt cheeks apart. I tried to wave my fingers around for a bit first, then started waving pretty big to try and get their attention since they aren't in the same room but are supposedly watching me on camera. They finally came in right before the machine started. It was Dr. Tuesday, so John and I met with Dr. M, the other radiation oncologist in the office. I asked him about the PET scan results, and he said he didn't have them in my file but would go and check on them. When he came back, he said that the lymph node in my chest came back rated a 1, and anything rated 3 and lower is definitely not cancer. They could also tell that my left ovary was the last one to spit out an egg. So the cancer is definitely not metastasized, which we pretty much already knew, but I'm glad the node in my chest didn't come back as a completely different problem. We also asked about when we would meet the surgeon, and he said anytime, but generally people will meet with him after radiation and chemo are complete. He also said that Dr. D does a lot of rectal surgeries and likes to wait longer rather than rush to operate, so it'll probably be more like 12 weeks or so after my treatment that the surgery would happen. He also noted that the tumor appears to be high up in the rectum, so the chances are high that I won't have to have a colostomy bag for the rest of my life. I went running downtown with J&S and managed to do the 5K route in 30 minutes. Slower than usual, but faster than I've been able to run lately. Maëlle had to remind me when I got home to take my chemo pills because I had forgotten to take them with me at dinner. Thank goodness she's got a good memory. I'm still feeling okay. My stools were looser today, but they still had shape, so I'm not to the diarrhea stage yet. We're a week and a half into treatment, and there's still more story to share, so make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss when I post the final video in this series documenting the beginning of my cancer treatment. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button below here and consider sharing it with your friends so that we can raise more awareness for this crappy disease. Thank you for watching.